What's up, everybody?
Hey.
We are back, the Life on Life's Terms podcast, and I'm Tom Robinson. And like I always say, we're not affiliated with any 12-step program. However, we do endorse them. I'm Tom Robinson, and I'm an addict in recovery, grateful recovering addict. And we're not affiliated with any 12-step program. And we do endorse them. We do love them. We have benefited from them.
Yes, we have. My name is Chris Mandeville. I am a recovered heroin addict. We are here at a New Way Recovery Center in Quincy, Mass. On Quincy Ave. If you're in the Quincy area and you're looking for resources, this place has lots and lots of them.
Fantastic place.
Lots of meetings here, and not your typical 12-step meetings. There's a bunch of stuff. There's refuge recovery. There's meditation meetings. There's
the mother's nurturing meeting.
There's a nurturing meeting going on right now, where the women, they cook dinner. There's all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
It's really good.
Women stuff.
And we're very gracious. We're very blessed to have them let us use this space to provide this podcast
very
for you. So tonight we have a couple people from another recovery center, South Shore Peer Recovery Center in Scituate, where I am every Saturday at the WAR meeting. We are recovered. And they're going to share a little bit of their experience, strength, and hope, and we're going to talk about what they do at the recovery center. And we'll also...
This Saturday, you're not going to be there because you're going to be...
No, I might still be... Yeah, that's 4 to 5:30.
Oh, that's 4 to 5:30.
But, yeah, this Saturday, I'm going to be doing a little solo mission at...
I might be there.
At Stairway to Recovery in Brockton. It's their anniversary, so they've asked us to come over there and, shine the spotlight on them for a little while. We'll be over there with Susan Lordy and 24hourpower.com and Recovery Graffiti. So, now...
Tonight we have...
Yes, tonight we have Dawn and Jane, and both of them are affiliated with Social Peer Recovery. So, they're going to share a little bit of their experience with us, and... We're definitely going to save some time to talk about Recovery Rocks. There's a website in the description, and we'll get to that later. So I'm going to turn it over to them, and we're going to hear from them.
I guess I'll take it
right.
Take it away.
Yeah.
Sure.
My
Take it
name
away.
is Jane, and I am a woman in recovery from alcohol and drugs. I have a long history in recovery. However, I recently returned about 15 months ago to a sober life, and I'm very pleased to say that I'm back in the sober community after some struggles. I've had long-term sobriety, and I've had several relapses. And in my later stages, I went from recovering from just alcohol to recovering from alcohol and prescription drugs.
And
wow.
that happens a lot with like just regular alcoholics, like
Yes.
just the people that drink. They tend to, like, later on. I've heard it numerous times. I know people that it's happened to. They may get a procedure or something happens where they get put on pain medication, and being in long-term recovery.
Does not
You can tend to rest
you
on your
immune.
laurels.
Yes, I had about 10 years of sobriety when I had my first back surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And, fast forward 5 back surgeries later, I
Wow.
became quite addicted to opiates and did not even realize at the time what was going on.
Those things are addictive, I hear.
Very.
I just want to say one quick thing. All right, so I vape, right? And on a bottle of juice that I use, they have to say, this contains nicotine and it's an addictive substance. Why is that not on prescription bottles? Like, they have to put it in this big, bold print that you can see. It
Right.
has to be a certain size.
I think it tells you not to share, but other than that,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's an answer to that question. I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, sorry, I cut you off.
No, I mean, it started out fine. I don't even think I knew I was addicted, but I would try to go off and I'd get sick, and I had quite a few surgeries back to back. So really it got very gray.
Did it bring you back to drinking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you know, this is what occurs to me with that. I don't mean to interrupt, like we always
No,
interrupt though, but
That's just how the show goes.
the thing about the people who are strictly alcoholic, they have another dimension to their denial. You know what I mean? This is normal. This is legal. Everybody does this.
Right.
Like, there's no denial when you're sticking a needle in your arm every day. You know what I mean? It's a
Right.
little.
Yeah.
It's a little. Well, I mean,
No, I was, you know, a high functioning addict, and on the outside everything looked fine. You know, upper middle class, at home mother, and you know, looking back, I see how it all started getting very blurry, and I unfortunately had some other health issues. I did go through 2 cancers. I think I was sober during that time, but then the benzos came in with chemotherapy, and, you know, I don't care how much recovery you have as an addict. If you start throwing in benzos and opiates,
It's deadly.
you're
That
off
is
and running,
deadly.
whether you
Yeah.
want to admit it or not. I was off and running, and about a year and a half ago, I think I was taking up to 20 pills a day. I was waking
normal.
up, taking something.
Now,
I was-
and you had enough to do this with prescriptions?
these were all legal prescriptions. I do not blame my doctors, but my doctors were my drug dealers.
So, but you didn't have to go outside of the
Never.
pharmacy to get anything.
I did
They were
not.
giving you enough.
They were.
to
They
take
were.
20 pills a day.
Imagine that.
Well, that was on a good day. On bad days, there were more.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I'm
Can
not.
I ask Jane how many years ago that was? I'm just curious.
In March of 2018, I was in the ER, and my tox screen came back with about 6 controlled substances.
So that was
and
only a
they-
year ago.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
yes, they were all
Yeah.
prescribed by doctors. A few different doctors. I wasn't doctor shopping, but
No, well, you had cancer, so you have a doctor for that. You had back surgery, so you have a doctor for that. And then I'm sure you had a primary care doctor.
yes,
You know, and
yes.
do you need anything? How are you feeling? Are you okay?
And I
Like,
hate,
as
I
a-
hate to
as an
say it-
addict,
I
you're-
hate to say it, but with the cancer in my background, it was almost like, what would you like?
Yes, exactly.
There was sympathy,
Exactly.
and the addict mind works, and that
Right.
sympathy worked well. And when I wasn't feeling right, I did have some pain, but it's pain that probably, looking back,
You could've-
Tylenol would have been
Right.
plenty.
Right.
But,
But all those
my
years.
tolerance had gotten so high.
Yeah.
I don't like to go into a you know, description and names of what I was on, but I was on a lot of fentanyl. Had no idea the strength or the addictive properties, and
And it's very short acting as well.
I was on a patch,
You
so
need
it never left my system.
Yeah, but it doesn't, like, people that make the switch from heroin to fentanyl, or they don't even know that they're making the switch, they have to use more and more often
Yes.
because it doesn't last.
I
Like,
had my
like I
days,
remember,
yes.
I remember back in the day when I would do some heroin. This stuff was called up and down, and like it would be hours and hours. They called it
Oh,
up
yeah.
and down because you'd get really up, and then you'd be like, whoa,
Yes. Yes.
and there was a long half life.
yes.
Hey, I got a hold of one of those fentanyl patches one time, and I was trying to figure out how to shoot it, and I'm pulling it apart. And like,
Yeah,
the hell am I
Wow.
doing? Good thing I didn't do it.
You
I
know,
know,
I
right?
Would've died.
successfully got off that about 5 years ago with Suboxone short term, but I was on a plethora of prescription medications to
Yeah.
get through the day. And I went to a very dark place and very hopeless, and ended up in the emergency room a little over a year ago. And really, it was a perfect storm. It really was. My nerve endings in my brain were fried, and I really wasn't able to admit to myself what was going on. But when I got there that night, I knew what was going on. And I'm happy to say that, you know, the worst day of my life turned into the best day of my life, because
Funny
I
how
got
that
into
happens.
recovery.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a very dark place to go. And
And now, when this first happened, you were sober, and it was from alcohol. So, like at first, did you did you think like, no, this is different?
Uh,
They're coming from doctors, or like, did you?
I remember I will never forget my first Percocet. And I was actually probably 10 years into recovery. And I took it, and about 20 minutes later, this effect came over me. And I remember where I was at that moment. It's crazy. But I
Right.
remember that feeling of euphoria, and I
Yeah.
thought, this is it.
Now,
I
did you?
found it.
Were you scared,
Oh, God, no.
or were
I
you
was-
like, yes?
I was like, I found it. This is better than
But
alcohol ever
yeah.
was.
The right.
I mean,
and
it helped the pain. I was in incredible back pain. I had sciatic. I had not had the disc corrected, so I was in incredible amount of pain. So the relief that came over me was that part was appropriate. The part that wasn't was my addict brain.
right, and that's what I was.
Took my euphoric level to a place that normal people do not go to.
Right, that's what I was gonna say, because you were typically, you drank,
Yeah,
so like alcohol versus that feeling,
very different.
very different.
I
But
hate-
also,
Right.
you're 10 years removed from a drink,
Yeah.
and you're in
Chemical
recovery,
free.
so you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna take this, and I'm gonna be okay.
Not right away, but it became like this secret thing. Like, I'm not
No,
going to
no,
tell
no. Like,
anybody.
you're gonna be okay with taking the pill.
Absolutely, but I'm also not going to tell anybody because I just have this secret that's wonderful, and it gets
Yeah.
me through the day.
Yeah.
It makes being a parent easier. It takes the back pain away. It just, it's like not for an addict. Taking an opiate is just opening up Pandora's box to addiction, and that
Yeah.
went on for 20 years on and off, chasing that euphoric feeling and not wanting to come down. I mean, I'm talking to 3 addicts, alcoholics, so I
Right.
don't have to explain to you, but to those people out in the audience, you're chasing that, and when you don't have it, you don't feel good, and it's just,
Right.
it's a cycle. It's not one that I ever want to visit again.
Nor do you have to.
No.
No, you don't. That's right.
And,
That's the message.
I did struggle throughout the years. I would get sober, I would relapse. I knew nothing about opiate addiction or the cycle, what happens to your brain, the chemical changes that take place.
Right.
I firmly believe in a 12-step program. That's always been part of my recovery. However, it wasn't enough.
Right.
I just kept relapsing. The desire to take a pill was so much greater than that to stay sober. It was a craving.
Are we? Yeah. Okay.
It was a craving that I really, it was hard to resist.
Yeah.
And, I think coming into recovery a little over a year ago, there's a lot more education, and there are a lot more people in the program that are opiate addicts, heroin addicts.
Right.
And it was really, I saw that movie Beautiful Boy, and it opened my mind at the end, the statistics on the chance of staying sober that first year in recovery off of synthetic medications was less than 10%.
I know, it's
And
crazy.
I realized, oh my God, it's not that I'm not strong enough. It's that I've got such a strong addiction. I'll be lucky if I make it the first year without a relapse.
Right. I equate it to. I heard this and it just stuck in my head. Like when you're sober and you pick back up, especially with opiates, it's like having sex with a gorilla. It's not going to be over until the gorilla says so. It's
Something like
That's a
that.
great
it's
analogy.
just you can't. We're not strong enough. We're not strong enough.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
so powerful.
Right.
That's
And it's a hairy
huge.
gorilla too.
That's
Yeah, very hairy.
that's a huge part
It's nice
of
we
what
can
I
laugh
think of.
about it,
Right, right.
Yeah.
But you talk about this out in the world, and people are
Right.
like, "What?"
I know.
You know.
You know what? If
Yeah.
I didn't laugh in recovery, it just the humor gets me through some of the
Right.
hardest days because I take no medications right now. I am an organic person for the first time in 25 years. But
Nice.
not all days are easy.
Right.
I don't like the way I feel. I think I do crave, even though it comes out in really bizarre ways. And some days you just I do the drill. And, finding South Shore Peer Recovery, finding structure. I was at a place in my life where I was an empty nester. I am single. I had stopped working. I had a lot of time on my hands.
Right.
And
Right.
I had no idea how important the structure is in a recovering addict's life. Structure,
Especially
with
in early
meetings.
recovery.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Yes.
Being home alone is just not a safe thing.
Right.
Tell you what, when I moved out of the program I went through, we moved like 2 miles away. And I had a get well job. It was like rigging a cash register, and I was working 10 hours a week, and I was back at that program all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Which was great. They allowed us
Oh,
to
it
go
was
back there.
fantastic,
Me
yeah.
and Tom went to the same place,
Yep.
and like whenever we wanted,
Fantastic.
like
Yeah.
plug in, like
Right.
if we needed dinner,
Yeah.
if we needed to do our laundry,
You
anything.
could
which
show up there,
Yeah.
get dinner.
You were always welcome.
It was a fantastic place.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful because it's a community. I use the 12 steps. So the AA community is very important to my recovery.
Fellowship it's
Yes.
huge.
It is.
You know.
But then I found South Shore Peer Recovery where people just stop in recovery. And I was able to start giving back right away as a volunteer in a safe environment.
Right. Right.
So it was safe to give back even with 1 month, 2 month sobriety where I was just kind of a wreck.
Right.
But I knew I wanted to stay sober, and I knew I was willing to do whatever it took because my way hadn't worked. And, my last jackpot was as far as I ever want to go. So I just plugged in. I became a volunteer and got on committees there and started getting to be friends with people that I would see at meetings.
Yeah.
I was in an intense outpatient program through Arbor Care in Norwell. I met some women there. We're all now volunteering at South Shore Peer Recovery, and it's just amazing. I was talking to a friend the other day, and we were both, in and out of sobriety, really struggling, and we both agree that there is an element of volunteering in a safe, sober community that has really just kept us sober. It takes a village. It's not just 12 steps. It's not just spiritual. It's not just working. You just have to kind of incorporate it all.
It's a whole lifestyle though.
Yes, my addict mind is alive and well and very smart.
Yes.
And so I just I don't trust it. I don't trust it. And it's taken me 57 years to admit that. I am a recovering addict. My mind thinks like an addict. It doesn't make me a less than person. It just makes me have to be very aware of my addiction, and my recovery is 24 hours at a time. It's one day at a time.
Yep.
Right.
That was like the biggest thing that they pushed at it was a therapeutic community, which you can't have anymore, was awareness.
Yes.
Can too.
Yes.
To be aware is to be alive is
Yes.
what
Yeah,
like
that
they
was
said
a
all the
thing all
time.
the time, yeah.
And to an extreme. So
Right.
like
Stay no matter what.
say
and to be aware and to
say
be
your
alive.
phone is right there
Yeah.
and you walk out of the room and you don't say I'm aware of that phone, you get in trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Although
know,
you
Right.
or your
Right.
seat or your
Couldn't
cup.
have phones, but
Yeah, you couldn't have phones. Yeah, you'd get in trouble for having
Right.
that anyways. But
We
it
have
was
to
like,
change everything.
yeah, you had to pay
Everything
attention
the
to how
first
you
time is
feel,
hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
who you're with, where you're going, what your surroundings
Yeah.
are.
Right.
You know, it
'Cause
made us think
I
about
just,
everything.
I never gave it credit that even the medications that weren't controlled that I took every day, everything I did was precipitated with a medication. And I have like this 20-minute time span of patience, because if I didn't like the way I felt, I would take a pill every 20 minutes. I had enough medication to do that. Wow. So sitting with a feeling for more than 20 minutes, I'm not a fan of it, but guess what? I have to be a big girl and I have to do that.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I get through it. And
But
I
now
don't
you have
take
other
it.
ways to help
Absolutely.
You get used
with
to
those
it. That's
feelings.
Yes.
But-
Everything is important. Your sleep, your nutrition, your spiritual basis.
What you're
helping
watching
others.
on TV, like what you're
Absolutely.
searching on the internet, like
Right.
all of that stuff plays a part.
I have to.
I seen
I have to check in sometimes.
Someone I think it might have been my buddy Howie. He put up a picture the other day, and it was, no, I think it was Mike Gavoni. It was a picture of how the brain reacts to heroin and how the brain reacts to pornography, and it was
Exactly the same.
exactly the same. It was
Yeah.
identical.
Yeah.
Like, so
Okay.
there's a lot of other things that, it could be shopping, it could be whatever,
Right.
but
Yes, yes.
like we
Yeah.
can trigger that stuff with a lot of different things. It's not
Yeah.
just, alcohol and or drugs.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, okay, now we got to reel ourselves back in if we're lucky.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If
right.
we're lucky.
But we have one more qualification to go through to get to.
Yes.
He's going to tell a little bit of his experience before you
Take it away, Don.
Am I on?
Yes.
You're on.
Is this thing on?
Thank you very much for having both Jane and I here tonight, and kudos to Jane for
Thanks for coming.
sharing,
Yes.
Yes.
coming here and sharing first. And I've gotten to know Jane at Social Peer Recovery in the last 45 days, maybe.
Oh, yes.
Maybe, yeah.
About
And
that,
it's been
yeah.
an absolute pleasure.
Yes.
Absolute pleasure working with her and watching her walk her walk. So I was informed ahead of time that this would be a very chill environment, okay? And just to let you know, I get sober well before time that anyone was using that word chill. So that tells you how long I have been around. Yeah. And I don't know, what does it even mean? Does it mean like
Chill?
hang out? Does it mean like
It means
people are-
relax.
Relaxed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. Okay.
No
I thought I had a
stress.
few different connotations, but I'm not too sure.
Tranquil.
Tranquil,
Chill.
very
No,
tranquil.
no stress.
Yeah, but
How-
this
so-
has been
so
this
is
has
it-
been very tranquil and
Chill?
chill.
All right,
So,
good.
Thank you. It's great to be here. So I'm a man in long-term recovery. I also want to say Happy Pride Week to our listeners out there.
Yes.
And I get sober. I lost a brother to alcoholism in 1986. He was 39 years old, and he had suffered with alcoholism for many, many years. His body couldn't take it any longer at a very young age.
He's way too young to die.
Yep.
Wow.
He died of cirrhosis of the liver. That
Wow.
ultimately, 2 years later, became the impetus for me to get sober. And I didn't even realize that at the time. My drinking was just taking off at that time. I was 23 years old.
Right.
And the family focus at the time was on Greg, my brother, for many,
Yeah.
many years. I'm the youngest of 6, grew up in Weymouth. And it was very easy to even smuggle booze into my bedroom.
So
when
there are benefits to being under the radar.
Yeah, right.
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely. I don't think I was under my mother's radar for too long. I think I even remember a conversation with her way back then where I had a bottle in a bag, and she asked me what it was, and of course I lied about it. And I think I was only 16 at the time, and
It's a sub, Ma.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Anything
Why
but what
eat it?
is.
Why not eat it at the kitchen table? Why are you going to take it to your bedroom? So anyway, I look at that now, and I looked at that in early recovery too. That tragedy as being something for me to grow from. I was very, very lucky. I too got sober in AA and through a 12-step program in Boston. I was terrified to go to local meetings. I lived in Weymouth. I didn't want anybody to know.
No.
I didn't get the anonymity part
Right,
away.
right.
And
Right.
I'm like, I'm going to go to Boston. And that's where my community grew, out of Boston. And I was glad because I was a bit of a really quiet kid. And the way you described what it was like when you took that first Percocet was how it felt to me when I first took my first drink. And that wasn't until after I was in college with my girlfriend then at the time for 4 years. And I was a guy that was just really, and this is where I want to go with my story. It's more about the personality change that I underwent. And I went from being kind of a shy, Jane's probably rolling her eyes thinking, shy? I don't think you're shy at all. But I was. And I think that what happened is alcohol was the gateway for me to just expand and be something, go from the best little boy in the world to being the bad boy that everyone wanted. And unfortunately, gave me license to behave in a way that was not sober.
Yeah, right.
and not cool, but just it got me out of my social awkwardness, and I fell in with her and a group of friends, and I got to be honest, my drinking in the first few years was fun. And a lot of times I talk to people and their drinking was fun.
Sure.
Yeah, it's
That's
fun.
good.
It's fun until
It's
it's
fun
it's not.
Fun until it's not fun.
It's fun
Yeah.
until you're done, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how I look
Yeah.
at it. Like, I just had some time where it was fun. However, I can chart back to that first year and that first relationship where I could see now in hindsight those personality changes. I would get gnarly and I would get confrontational, and it was definitely the booze, because without the booze in me, it definitely triggered a physical, emotional, and ultimately spiritual reaction that just it changed me.
Yeah.
A profound personality change is what eventually changed me in sobriety.
Yes.
But what happened first was the change. So I very much relate to the description of having the physical allergy to
Right.
alcohol.
Yes.
And I
Yep.
do believe that when I put it in my body, something changes.
Yep.
And that personality change.
Yeah, we react differently than normal people.
Exactly. So I don't
Yeah.
have a normal brain in that
Right.
sense.
And I think they even have proven that the body of an alcoholic can process alcohol differently than
Medically, they've
Yeah,
proven that.
medically,
Yeah.
I knew there was something wrong when I drank all the lemon extract and the vanilla extract in the cabinets at my
Sure.
grandparents' house.
that stuff's potent too.
It is.
And my-
It
we're-
is.
We're getting a ride to the mall by my friend's mom, and
Yeah.
she's like, "Something smell like lemons," and that was the big joke.
You weren't just making lemonade.
No,
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
that's not
No.
social. That was by myself.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was immediately
Yeah.
at 18. I was already a blackout drinker,
Yeah.
and I just thought everybody forgot what they did the night before.
Yeah.
Until I started realizing I was the only one that didn't know where I was, who I was with,
Yeah.
and what I did the
And
night before.
And those things I relate to. And actually, there was a period of time where I got into AA right away, and I was very lucky. And I used it more as a social support system first. I got sober. I stopped drinking, but I was so lonely, and I had that huge empty hole.
Yeah.
That the 6th step in AA talks about filling, and trying to fill that in. And I wasn't one of those people that was a blackout drinker right from the start. And I was doing too much comparing and not identifying in the
Oh,
beginning.
right.
And thought I'm
Yeah.
not that bad, because like I said, I remember having fun times that I
Right.
remembered. But you know what? I realized through the years that we're as different as we are individual. The four of us are different in all different ways, but we have that
Yep.
common thread.
Yes.
Or at least we all identify with that common thread.
Right.
So I just happen to fall in the category of someone who developed a dependency over years and periods of use and abuse. And like I said, when it wasn't fun anymore, I had to start looking at that.
Well, the tendency to use it to like push life away and use it as a coping mechanism is so insidious. It's so. You think that I just want to relax and have a drink or whatever it is, and it becomes so much easier. Life in general to sensitive people is not easy to
Right.
deal with emotionally. You
Right.
go up and down. I had a terrible week emotionally. I was a little bit depressed, but it was okay. You know what I mean? Because I've grown to know myself enough to be like, well, this too will pass. I'm not. I might not be happy, and even though there's no reason for me not to be happy, I have lots of good things.
Yeah.
But that intellectually doesn't matter all the time. But the point is, I'm not pushing it away. I'm
Right.
feeling those feelings and
Right,
being
sitting with
okay
it.
in my own skin and being like, this isn't the end of the world. I can feel a little depression or a little sadness, a little melancholy, and still be okay without, stuffing something in my face to make it all go away. You know what I mean?
I always wonder where, because when I got to AA, that's when I started hearing the commonality of the feelings, and that's where I felt at home right away. Because I remember my first meeting was a beginners meeting, and certainly applied to me. And I was in the room with 5 or 6 different men and women who I didn't think I had anything in common with, and I just happened to be very lucky in the fact that they all happened to be in a meeting where they were really talking more about their feelings and what alcohol did for those feelings rather than their war stories, if you will.
Right.
And I was just lucky. I was just in the right place at the right time, and I had the hand of AA reach out to me. And
Right.
it was with somebody who had been sober for 10 years, a gentleman who took me to my first meeting. And then after that, I mean, there's a lot of AA in Boston. There's a lot of AA
tons.
in Quincy.
Yeah,
Of
tons.
AA
Quincy's like
situation.
AA capital.
It
It's
is.
funny
My-
you talk about your
Yeah.
first meeting. Well, the first meeting I willingly attended, I had only done a couple detoxes, but my first meeting was in the Plymouth House of Correction, and it was a woman speaking, and what I identified with was the feelings.
Yeah.
It wasn't what she did.
No.
Right.
No.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
the stories can be completely different, but we can feel
Absolutely.
exactly the same about them.
Exactly.
Like, she talked about waking up in the morning and not wanting to do what she did the day before, but a couple hours later, there she was doing it again.
Right.
And I was just
Exactly. Yeah.
like, I identified so much, like I was shaking.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yes.
oh my God, really? Like
And what-
this, I'm not the only one?
Was that like your first identification along
Yes.
those lines?
Gift of
Yeah.
identification
You never
right there.
forget that.
No.
You never forget that.
And then I hadn't even thought about going to treatment or anything
No.
yet. I was
Yeah.
just, I signed up to get good time, to get time off my
Sure.
sentence.
Yes.
It wasn't to, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I when I went to detox, it wasn't to get sober. It was because I had no hustle.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
I went to
Mm.
2
You
or
got-
3, and that was it.
You got a gift you weren't looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank
exactly.
We're lucky.
Amazing.
You know?
I
Very
was
lucky.
very,
Very
very
cool.
grateful. So I just I've spent my career my recovery in Boston and Quincy primarily. I spent 21 years living in Quincy. Moved back to my hometown about 20 months ago. Got married last year to a wonderful and supportive partner. Who has been with me for 16 years, and
Nice.
I've had the support of 2 home groups. I've been very lucky enough to have a support of 2 home groups over the years, and I got laid off from a professional job in 2015, working with a company that I had moved into at a very young age too, and then didn't know what I wanted to do. I kind of knew I didn't want to do that kind of work anymore. It was working in large trade shows, and I just felt like I had run the gamut. I had done the finance thing with them, and I had done the program piece with them. And I knew I had this time on my hands, and I, at the time, so where we are, a New Way Recovery Center in Quincy, I lived right over the hill, and I came down here that winter of 16, and I said, I'm going to do some volunteer work, help out.
Oh,
And I
cool.
came in and met with the volunteer coordinator here, and she put me on the switchboard in 5 minutes.
Really?
I said, start answering phones.
Sit down and answer
And
the
I
phone.
did, and it was a great filler for me while I tried to figure out what I wanted to do. And what that led to was doing some more intense volunteer work here. They got wind of my event business, so they grabbed me and said, "Oh, good, you can plan help plan our anniversary party." And from there, I went into the Recovery Coach Academy. And I wanted to check it out. And this is something Jane can identify with
I
because
just,
she had a
finished
similar
my
experience.
first 30 hours in
Your
the Recovery
training.
Coach Academy. and
Yeah, yeah.
Very similar. My degree is in social work, and I wanted to do this. I was sober during college and then graduated and was smart enough to try to drink again, but did get sober again. So it's really interesting. I've come full circle. I'm back where I was at 22, wanting to give it away. And so it'll be a process, but I'd love it. And
How much education is there with the recovery coach?
they have the initial 30-hour class and then another 30-hour ethics course.
Well, it's not a 30-hour ethics course, but it's another 30 hours of training, which includes like 7 different additional trainings.
Okay.
So once you do that, you're not certified. You have to go through a certification process, and that includes 500 hours, working hours with
Right.
with clients.
Right, right.
And that's exciting for
The
for
way,
Jane.
yeah, it's
and-
amazing
and-
because I get it's a win-win. Worst case scenario, it only helps my recovery.
Right, right.
Best case
Yeah.
scenario, along the way and in training, I can give hope to another woman or a gentleman that is finding themselves in a situation I was in.
Mm-hmm.
I felt very little hope that night at South Shore Hospital. And they now are, thank you to Governor Baker, who has set aside a ton of money. They are going to have recovery coaches in ERs, in hospitals.
Wow.
There's going to be someone there, and they promote any recovery is better than no recovery. So if
Right.
12 steps works for you, if a spiritual path works for you,
Yeah,
if
if
all
Matt-
of them work for you,
You know,
Exactly.
medically assisted treatment,
medically
whatever.
assisted treatment.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wouldn't be here today if I had faced shame coming back into the program. Because I went through those doors so many times. And I do speak from the podium, and I no shame. I don't care if you have to come through that door 3 times a week after relapse. Don't give up. Keep coming. Keep coming.
So out of your darkness that night, now you're going to be light for other people.
That's the way
Everything
I'd like
happens
to
for a
see it.
reason.
Yes.
Everything
yes.
happens for a reason.
No, the
That's how-
journey is kind of laid out. It's kind of, it's crazy when you
You
look
might
at
take
it.
a little detour, but you end
Yeah,
up back where you
yeah.
were supposed to be. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
you hope so if you're lucky
Yeah.
enough.
Right.
No.
So
it
I
just-
actually
yeah.
became a recovery coach in the ED for 8 months, and then I went, and I'm not going to give a long dialogue about my resume, but the point is that something profound happened out of those volunteer opportunities for me that made me, late in life, okay, I'm not, as young as I look, and I
Chill.
but nevertheless, a late in life decision. So one of the things that I wanted to come on and talk about was for people not only in recovery, but anybody who's listening who struggles late in life with career change.
Yeah.
It can be a scary thing.
And it's
Yeah.
happening a
Everybody.
lot. It's happening
Yeah.
a lot to people.
Yes.
It is, and I just I'm here to say that I am I didn't go through this without fear. I walked through it with fear to get to the other side, which was to find a kind of a course of work, social work, if you will. I went back to school. And I didn't finish getting a degree, but I started the process of correcting my areas of my earlier college education when I was maintaining a D average in my first year because of drinking. And I
Right.
went back, and it was the first time I went to school sober, okay, at 50-something years old. And then, it's just one thing led to another, and it was all about relationships and some compromise. And some, healthy compromise,
Right.
and some need for education, and then I was able to move into this field and do the kind of work that I'm doing.
Yep.
So not only did I work out of here and have that touch with other addicts and alcoholics, I was then able to move into Boston at the Bureau of Substance Addiction Services and do some work there. And I only joined Social Peer Recovery 2 months ago.
Yeah, very recent.
Yeah, very recently, because I did miss the touch that I was having with people, like the community,
Yeah.
the touch that Jane talks
It's
about.
amazing.
Oh, okay.
It really
Yeah.
is.
Being
So at
able to
this
do
other
that.
place in Boston, you weren't hands-on?
Yeah, I was not hands-on with the individuals. It was more of I was working as a recovery support services associate, and what I
okay.
did is I helped oversee these particular recovery centers, but also I was involved in the planning of the
So it's more of the business
training
side of
calendar,
it.
the business side of
Yeah.
it, and it took me a while.
And
that
recovery is a business.
It
It
is.
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that spoke to my my past career, but I knew something was missing, and it was that piece. So when this opportunity came up and was presented to me, I grabbed it because I wanted to be a part of the community again.
Awesome.
One of the things I wanted to touch on is probably two of the most challenging times in my recovery over the years. Was in my year 4. I lost my mother suddenly. And I've lost both parents, but that was a very, very difficult loss, and it took me a good 4 years to really grieve through it.
The grieving process? Yeah.
Yeah, and it was, but I was sober. I was
And
sober
you stayed
when she
sober
died,
through it.
and I stayed sober through it, and
And that's the thing. Like
It's a
there's,
testament
there's no
right there.
time frame on grief.
no, there
No,
isn't.
There isn't.
No.
But there's no need to run from the feelings.
Mm.
And you stayed sober and you felt the feelings. And if you had run from them, you'd probably still be feeling them. That's the difference.
They follow you. Absolutely. Yes.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
I tell a story about a silly story about how I was when I finally got sober, I had been using heroin daily for a long time, and I was in love with this girl, and I had broken up with her. And then when I got sober, all those feelings came back
Mm.
Oh.
because they were pushed away. They were
Mhm.
still
Yeah.
there, but they pushed away.
Something, just a couple things on top of them, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
sprinkle a little dope on there, and
Exactly.
just stay down for a
Yeah.
while.
Stay down for a long time. As long as you keep doing it every day, you're not
Yeah.
going to feel anything until you stop doing it.
Right.
All right.
Right.
But if you go through it sober, you are eventually able to come to acceptance, right?
Well, the more I get to know Jane too, on a personal level as well, we are learning more and more about each other. We just found out recently that we are, and I know you brought this up in your
Yes,
story, so
yes.
it's okay that we're both cancer survivors.
Yes.
And it
Mm.
was 51 weeks ago this week that I was diagnosed with bladder cancer. So this is
Oh, wow.
this is where I was leading to. That
Mm.
was my second challenge.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
the difference is when that first potential obstacle came up, I really, 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 really wanted to drink when my mom died. I remember it. I
Oh,
even
yeah.
remember going to meetings every day. Still felt like white knuckling because
Yeah.
of the grief.
Yeah.
This was very different. This was it was like the furthest thing I wanted
Right.
to do.
No.
Yeah.
was
Can-
to
the
pick
cancer
up.
during the cancer.
Exactly.
you're
in a
Because the
different
support that I
place.
got
Yeah.
from my home group and from so many people, and you know what, my husband and I, we sat down, we just made a decision unitarily that we were just going to plow through this. And I don't mean plow through it like ignore your feelings, but have your feelings, have your tears, and then pick up and trust in professionals, trust in people who
Right.
knew. And my experience was very lucky.
Mhm.
I was put in the hands of an excellent surgeon. I am cancer free today,
Mm.
and I stayed sober through that.
Yep.
And Jane and I talked about, something happens
Yes.
to the psyche, to the mind, to the body in the aftermath. There are many, many people out there, unfortunately, who aren't as lucky as we are
Right.
to be living today without cancer. But
Right.
most importantly is there was so many gifts in this last year
Yeah.
that if I had been asleep again by drinking or drugging,
Right.
I would have missed out on. And not only that, I wouldn't have gone to that first appointment if I had been drinking. I wouldn't have
Right.
gone. I got diagnosed through a wellness checkup, an annual physical, and
Wow.
I wasn't experiencing any pain or discomfort
Right.
or
Wow.
any signs whatsoever.
Wow.
So if I hadn't done that and taken care of myself, so I am putting in a plug for wellness visits to your
Yes,
doctors.
yes.
Absolutely.
Isn't it-
No, I
isn't
was
it
sober when I was
annual?
diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah,
And, something we talked about in our cancer talk,
Yeah.
the difference between being diagnosed with cancer and being diagnosed with alcoholism or addiction. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer 12 years ago, people came to my door with flowers and food and pink ribbons, and they celebrated me. Being diagnosed as an addict or an alcoholic can be a very lonely
Oh,
thing.
yes. Yeah.
And I know there are women like me out there under the covers struggling all alone. And you know what? There's no stigma. I think being diagnosed with cancer, it was laid out for me. We talked about this.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to do. This is what you're going to experience. This is how you'll feel. And this is when you'll be done. Being an addict,
Right.
not quite the same.
Nope.
So it's a bizarre thing to have in common. We had a really intense talk about this.
Yes, you did. Yep.
We're survivors being in recovery too, huge survivors.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see the day where, cancer and addiction are at the same place.
I'm glad Jane touched on that. I really am glad.
Yes, the same
because-
research, the same
Both
medication.
they're both deadly.
Exactly.
Extremely.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
both left untreated will kill us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
Well, alcoholism was forgetting
Threefold.
the word. But anyway, 1950s American Medical Association said it was disease, it was chronic, was progressive, and it was fatal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Same thing with
And
cancer.
I mean, I
believe.
celebrate
Exactly.
12 years of being cancer-free, but every day I don't pick up a drink or a drug is a miracle.
That's a
Yes.
celebration too.
It's a
in
miracle.
itself. Yeah.
It really
exactly.
is. So, anybody out there that's gotten through the day and hasn't picked up a drink or a drug,
Yep.
you're a miracle. Congratulations.
You're,
be
you're a
celebrated.
badass.
You
Yes,
are
a
a
badass. And you should have a cake.
Yeah. So now
Okay.
you're at SSPR and you are.
I am the program manager at South Shore Peer Recovery.
So
Yes.
you kind of.
You didn't read my resume, Chris?
So you get.
So
you
what
know,
I
what
do-
the what the community wants, you get it
Yeah.
into the facility.
So I came into the facility with programs.
oh,
that-
hey,
yeah.
I took the survey. I took
I did
Oh,
too.
thank
I
God!
did
Thank
too.
you,
Yes,
thank
I
you.
did. South
And
Shore
for
Peer
anyone
Recovery.
who
survey.
yeah,
They have a survey for what
programs.
the individual would like to see
What you'd
at
like to see
South Shore Peer
offered.
Recovery.
what would
Mhm.
benefit
Offered.
you in to go to Social Peer Recovery? A number of different selections, a number of different programs. You
Yeah.
can go to our website, and I believe it was put at the top of the heap today.
Yep.
And take the survey and answer
Whether
the
you
questions.
want whether you need resume building or
Right.
recovery cooking or
Anything.
tons of stuff.
Recovery
Yeah.
cooking.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Cooking
All
for
right.
recovery.
Yes.
I mean, teaching people how to cook.
Nutrition.
Who are,
yeah.
who
Yeah.
are
like healthy.
just coming in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
No,
they don't
yeah.
know how to live a normal life.
Exactly.
I didn't know how to do shit when I got here.
I know.
Nothing.
I'm telling
know.
you,
That's
I
not
had
true.
to
That's not true. He
relearn
was
some
he used to
basics.
I
chef
can't
up
believe
some
that you
mean
didn't know.
stuff. He
Look
used
at
to
all
cook
the
some
stuff that
good
you guys
food.
set up here.
That
It's
was
amazing.
Yeah.
It's, I get to
comes
this
back.
program. I get to this program. Right. I cooked for a long time,
Yeah.
and I get to this program. My counselor finds out my background. I don't know if I can't remember if it was 3 days or 3 weeks that I was there. The entire kitchen crew got kicked out because they were all smoking crack.
Oh,
So
darn.
they were like, "All right, you've worked in restaurants. Here
They
you
grabbed
go."
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was placing Cisco orders. I was
Good for
coming up with
you.
menus. I was coming up with schedules. Like,
Well,
here,
that's
your,
what
your
the crew
kitchen
chief
crew,
was do-
your kitchen
used to
crew
do,
chief,
yeah.
and that's what was great about the place that we went through.
Mm.
Everybody had a role in the house,
That's
and we
nice.
ran the house. We were
Yeah.
our community.
Yes.
There was staff
Yep.
to monitor but there was a chain of command. Like
Yeah.
if you wanted to talk about something, you had to go to your big brother.
Yeah.
Your big brother had to go to the guy you had a problem with, big brother. And if they couldn't talk it out between you guys, then you went to staff, and then you went up the chain. But
Yeah.
like everybody had a purpose in that place.
Right.
And
Well,
if
that what you just described is what social peer recovery is structured
Mhm.
like,
Right.
at just like a new way is structured because I worked here as well, and how I feel, and I'm pretty. I don't think I'm wrong in this fact that the 10 recovery support centers across Massachusetts that are under BSAS's umbrella, soon to be 18, they're going to be expanding,
Yeah.
are peer led. So,
Yeah.
like you said, in the house that you were in, you all have a job to do, just like our volunteers, and we have a
Yeah.
very, very high volume of volunteers
Yeah,
in
it's-
social peer recovery. There's only 2.5 staff. Okay?
Right,
And
right.
That's myself, our center director, and a part-time. I'm
Volunteer
sorry.
coordinator.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Volunteer coordinator, who is fantastic at her job.
right,
They
you
both
guys
are.
mainly run on volunteer.
Yes, we do.
How
And
many how many hours a month do volunteers put in? I want to say like,
I thought it was. Oh, gee,
I
you
can't
would ask me
remember.
the hard question.
well,
Yeah.
what happens though is
360.
it's something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So
It's
360 hours a
empowering.
month.
Yeah.
It's all about empowerment.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't fix me. Help me learn how to fix myself
That's-
and get empowered through it and
Yeah.
become
That's
someone.
how Turnabout was, Project
Yes.
Turnabout.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
if we needed something for the house,
Mm-hmm.
we had a crew that had to get on the phone and call people
And do it.
and ask,
Right.
hey, this is Project Turnabout. Like a men's treatment facility. Would you like to make a donation to us?
Yeah.
And like the response sometimes was crappy, but most
Yeah.
of the time it was great. Like
Yes.
Mm.
we used to have to go to the Chelsea Produce Mart every
Mm.
Friday morning at 4 a.m.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and would have to walk the docks and go into each vendor and ask them. And I had some guy tell me to fuck off for like 9 weeks straight.
Mm.
And then on the 10th week, I walked in and I treated him exactly the same every time.
Mhm.
And then on the 10th week, I walked in and I was waiting for it to come,
Right.
still presenting myself the same. And he's like, you know what? Favre, come here. He
There
thought
you
I looked
go.
like Brett Favre. He
Oh,
brought me back.
jeez.
He brought me
Oh,
back, grabbed, I don't know, a case of lettuce or something.
Yeah.
But that, you know, me not changing who I was because of how he was treating me.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it eventually changed him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then it was like,
Yeah.
you know, go back there again, and he's throwing all kinds of stuff. You
That's
know?
awesome.
But
That's
but we
awesome.
had to, if we needed something, we needed to get it.
Yep. Yep.
You know, and
Yeah.
it gave everybody purpose. It gave everyone
Right.
responsibility.
Exactly.
You know, accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
I think it's human nature, in my opinion only, but I think it's human nature that we all want to be needed in some
Yes,
way,
yes.
Yes.
in a productive way.
Oh, yeah, no,
I think
it's-
that's why
uh,
we all, struggle so much when we feel like we can't contribute due to the use and abuse of drugs and alcohol. I think we all want to contribute in
Well,
some
we
way.
can probably all agree that last year of my addiction or my alcoholism, the isolation sets in, and you forget basic communication skills. You stop making phone calls, you stop taking phone calls, you just start isolating. So when
You're
I
shutting
got
yourself off from
right,
everybody.
and you
Right.
put down the drinks and the drugs, and guess what? You have to rebuild those skills. I'm a smart
Yes.
woman who's done a lot of different careers, but getting sober and coming back into the community was the hardest thing I've ever done. And
In your
you know,
head.
in my
In
head,
your head it was.
in my head, putting one foot, just feeling empowered. And that's where like South Shore Peer Recovery really helped me, because it was such a safe place. It's laid back, it's calm,
And
there's
people
no pressure.
and
No
people also
pressure.
go in there that are looking for resources.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
You know,
yes.
like say
All
they
the
have a
time.
problem with their son. And what's the
Exactly.
is it craft?
We have craft.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. So craft is a program that's operating on an 8-week cycle. It is a proven program, evidence-based. 70% of people who have gone through the training, there's been a 70% success rate of getting your loved one. And right now, the program is tailored to parents or caregivers of
Children.
exactly.
Okay.
But there's a 70% success rate to get them to treatment, and that
To
is
treatment.
the goal through craft. And it differs in a way that, from Al-Anon, and that is one of several of our programs that require pre-registration.
Yeah.
All of our other programs are drop-in, and they're all free.
Does this
including the
involve
pre-registered
Does this
programs.
involve taking the door handles out of the back seat of your car?
No, not that I'm aware of. I hope
So-
not. I
so
would
yeah.
fail at that.
So at
Yeah.
SSPR
Yeah.
Monday nights what?
Meditation.
Meditation.
And
Tuesday night
and craft. Nothing on Tuesday
nothing
night.
on Tuesday. Wednesdays acupuncture.
Acupuncture, detox acupuncture, which I attend. You sleep great
How is
on
it?
Wednesday
I-
nights.
I
It's
gotta get over there on a
amazing.
Wednesday. I
It's
haven't
Two,
been
amazing.
there.
and it's 2 sessions, 5 and 6:30.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
Wow,
then-
and that is free to people.
Everything
Yes.
is
free
free.
to people.
Wow.
And then-
That's pretty cool.
Thursday night is Faith Finders.
Faith
Faith
Finders.
Finders.
Anything on Fridays
Not
yet?
on Friday. Nope.
We're
Nothing.
growing. We're a work in
Yep.
progress.
That's what the
Uh,
survey's for.
That's what the
Take
survey's
survey.
for.
Take
Exactly.
the survey.
Yeah. Take the survey.
And of course, you can break down the percentages, but what percent is funded and what percent is donations for South Shore Peer Recovery?
Well, with the program, she asked the tough questions. I didn't expect that from you,
I'm
Jane.
going
I didn't
into
know I needed to
why,
pull percentages.
Recovery Rocks is so important.
Yes,
Recovery Rocks is
yes,
very,
we, get,
very
we need to
important.
talk about that. We
Yeah.
got
Yes.
a few
Yeah.
minutes left.
Yeah.
Also, we
Yeah,
got War on
exactly.
Saturdays.
War
We
on
are
at 4
recovered.
Awesome
o'clock.
meeting.
Yep,
Exactly.
that's my group.
Exactly.
I love
Tuesday
that meeting.
women's meeting.
Yes.
which is
Oh yeah, Tuesday the
fabulous.
women's meeting in the morning.
Yes, yes.
So many women that they need to make another meeting.
Yes,
Yeah,
we're adding
but
one
most
more.
likely,
Yes,
exactly.
most
Pretty
likely.
cool.
10
Yeah.
a.m. 10 a.m.
10
to
a.m. on
11
Tuesdays.
On
Nice.
Tuesdays.
And
Yep.
But
And-
the majority of our funding comes from donations.
Donations. Yes, it
And
does.
this
And
is
so yeah, let's
Yes.
get into it.
this
We-
is how I started as a volunteer. It was sold out last year, but I found out if I volunteered, I could get a ticket, right? So hey,
little
good things
manipulation, but it
happen.
worked.
Yes, and it's August 22nd. It's the 4th annual Recovery Rocks in Situate, Massachusetts. We have 2 bands.
It's a Thursday night.
It is a Thursday evening from 6 to 10. It is live. You can buy your tickets live on Facebook.
And there's
on the
more tickets
website.
this year, so.
Also on our website. Which is-
300 tickets sold out before the event last year.
Yep.
This
This
year,
year.
500 are available. We
Mhm.
do expect those to be a sellout as well. So if
Okay.
you're thinking of going, go ahead and get your ticket reserved so you don't wish you had done it.
Right.
And it's located at Bowman Marine in
Yes.
Situate Harbor.
Yes. There's food.
Yeah.
Fabulous food.
Volunteer
2
food
bands.
trucks.
Yes.
And, free music. There'll be dancing. There'll be a dance floor. Jane went last year. I did not go
So
at that time.
so there might not be a Life on Life's terms that night.
Right.
What? Oh, it's
It's a
Thursday.
Thursday.
night?
Yeah, it's a
Thursday night.
Thursday.
Oh, well, maybe we'll have to go live.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
hey,
that's
there
an
you
idea.
go. I
That's
like
an
it.
idea.
I
Let's
like
do it.
Yep.
That would be an awesome idea,
That is
actually.
really
Let's
good.
do
Yeah,
it. We can
yeah.
we can
There
go
you go.
live.
Yes.
I think I
Done
like
it
that
before.
idea.
You
Yep.
have a lot of audience
So-
members that would be excited.
Yes. August 22nd,
August 22nd.
6 to 10, Bowman Marine, Situate Harbor.
Yes.
And
So
go
date.
to southshorepeerrecovery.com to purchase your tickets.
Yep. I put a link on the
Awesome.
post.
Fantastic.
On the
Is there
post
anything
on
else
Facebook.
Anything else you guys want to
Not
talk
that-
about?
Not that I know of. Next week's the we're going live from that thing in Brockton
Oh yeah, Saturday.
Saturday.
What else is going on?
Is that a new thing, that thing?
that thing.
Yeah, that thing.
What's it? What's the name of the
If
place?
you go to
Stairway to Recovery.
Stairway to
Right.
Oh,
Recovery.
yes.
There you
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
In Brockton?
Yeah, in
Yeah.
Brockton.
Yes.
Yeah, Recovery Center.
And
Yeah.
there are several events going on in September. They've got
Vigils.
overdose awareness
yes, yes.
vigil in
The
Situate.
Sunrise Vigil
Sunrise
Uh,
that
Vigil.
I definitely want to attend.
That's August
more-
31st.
What's that about?
It's a
Oh, it's
overdose
amazing.
vigil at
They-
sunrise.
At sunrise.
Sunrise
Where?
Vigil
Where does it take
in
place?
Situate, Mass, at the Situate Lighthouse.
Yeah.
Oh,
And they have
cool.
And there's a-
music.
There'll be a
it's-
plan. There'll be a plan for people to walk from social peer recovery to the lighthouse that morning, and that's on August 31st. And then, of course, September 1st launches Recovery Month,
Yes.
and we'll have a strong presence at Recovery Day, which is tentatively Monday, September 16th,
Oh yes.
in Boston at Faneuil Hall.
Mm.
Yeah.
That
There'll
would
be
be
a lot of people gathering.
That'd be great
there.
to be there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it'd
and
be good
that's
to be there too.
yeah,
Mm.
that's a more organized
Yes.
event.
Yeah, MOAR, yep.
Yes, yeah.
We should get in touch with them. All
Yeah.
right, so please subscribe at the website lolterms.com.
Yes. Like, share, subscribe. We're available on many platforms.
Yeah.
Spotify,
Apple Podcasts,
Google Play,
Play,
whatever you fancy. You
Whatever
can find
you
us
got.
at. We're like drugs. We're everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, and like we always say, if anyone wishes to come on and share their experience, strength, and hope with us, or talk about their organization, whatever it is,
Let
just
us
message
know.
us. We're always looking for guests.
There's a good life out there sober.
Absolutely.
There's just a lot of really great things going on.
They are.
It's a good time
There
to
are.
be sober.
If you're bored in recovery, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
Mhm.
You're doing it way wrong.
Right, right.
And
you set a good example as to what you can do.
Yes.
Yeah.
With this podcast.
Yeah.
I love
Oh,
it.
thank
Thank you for
Yeah,
having
yeah,
us.
Thank you
both
very
of
much.
you.
Yeah,
Nice
thanks for coming
job.
on, both of you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
having
Appreciate
us.
All right.
All right, people.
That's it, folks. Peace.
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 Mhm.